I'm Bill Singleton, a Ph.D. student in the College of Communication and Information Science. I'm talking to Dr. George Daniels, a member of the faculty of the Department of Journalism and Creative Media. Dr. Daniels, how long have you been teaching at University of Alabama?
Bill, I came to the University of Alabama in 2003. So this is my 18th year at the university.
And what is it about research that gets you excited?
Well, my background is in television news. So I'm a journalist at heart. I have a background in print journalism, but worked in broadcast news. And I still like telling the story. I think as a researcher, I like getting up in the morning and looking for stories. Those stories might be in a recorded interview, or they might be contained in a data set from a survey that was been conducted. I just have a lot of questions that I believe I can answer. And the good news is, as a researcher, I can do so much more than I did as a reporter working on a daily deadline.
And what are the two biggest questions you want to answer in your research?
One of the things that we don't have a good understanding of, I believe at this point, is a role that having diverse perspectives has on the information available in our society. So I want to unpack what role diverse perspectives plays in our understanding about our world. And that can come from looking at television messages, and as I've done recently in a study of African-American males, how they presented, but it also can be presented and answered in what we understand about the local newspaper and telling the story about icons, cultural icons like Ruth Bader Ginsburg or John Lewis. I also am looking at questions related to the role of a university in a community, and that area is called community engaged scholarship.
Tell us about a project you've recently completed and what happens to it next.
I'm most proud of a study that actually has been in progress for about 3 years. And it started in my old television station in Atlanta, Georgia, WXIA, where after I left the station a few years later, at least 10 people left the station on the same day. They were given buyouts. It was one of the efforts of a media company to reduce its ranks. But these people weren't just any employees. All of them had been there at least 20 years. And so the study that we are publishing in the journal Journalism History looks at the goodbye videos, the stories that these journalists are telling about their 20 plus years in television, whether they were on-air anchor or reporter or an off-air videographer or an editor. They all have stories to tell about events that are ever present in our American and our world history, like the 9/11 attacks, like the tornado in 2011 in Tuscaloosa, like the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. These are memories that these journalists departing had. And I looked at that at several different stations. My co-author and I are very pleased to be able to share those stories, not only because these people were saying goodbye to a television station, but because they were reflecting what's known as collective memory.
And what are you currently working on?
Well, right now, I am really focused on developing further the understanding about social icons and cultural icons and how we remember them at the time that they pass on. A few years ago, a colleague of mine, Gabriel Tate, and I did a study about the passing of Muhammad Ali and Maya Angelou. And we published that study in Visual Communication Quarterly. We decided recently to update that research by looking at how newspaper front pages tell the story of icons more recently. In 2020, we lost Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg and longtime Congressman and civil rights icon John Lewis. hundreds of newspapers carried stories about their passing. How did they remember them, and how did they capture the totality of their lives and their careers? That is a study that we are currently working on.
If I'm a student at the university, how do I get involved in the research you're doing?
Well, Bill, I think there are a lot of ways for students to get involved in research, particularly if you're an undergraduate. There are opportunities for you to really connect in doing what we call coding. When we're analyzing media messages, we have to determine what's happening with that newspaper or what's happening with that television show. But there are also opportunities to even write. And just a few years ago, I was able to work with an undergraduate student in analyzing social media content. So I think the key is to identify an area of interest and contact me at gdaniels@ua.edu, and we can talk about how you can get connected to the different research projects that I have going on.
Dr. George Daniels, thank you for sharing your research story with us.